All right, welcome back. It is 1:31. We are going to take up our next item, 6.7, our 11:20 a.m. item, consideration of resolution amending the master fee schedule for departmental services rendered by the county. We have admin staff. Welcome, Ms. Moreno and Ms. Heenan.
Hello, good afternoon, Board. Casey Moreno, Deputy County Administrative Officer. With me today is Shannon Heenan, Administrative Analyst with Administration. So Shannon worked directly with various departments in preparation for today's update, so I invited her up here with me. For your consideration today is the annual master fee schedule update for county departments. The Administration Department brings the master fee schedule forward around the end of April, beginning of May every year. This is the optimal time because many of the Community Development Department fees go into effect 60 days after your board's approval. So this allows for the fee changes to go into effect on July 1st. Most of the changes are increases by Consumer Price Index, or CPI. The CPI this year is 2.37%. We follow the Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area February to February average for CPI. The other ways that fees can change is by fee study or state or federal mandate. The departments who have changes this year are Agricultural and Weights and Measures, Auditor Controller County Clerk, Community Development, Public Services, Public Works, Registrar of Voters and Elections, Sheriff, and Water Resources. So to start out with Agricultural and Weights and Measures, a fee study was completed and increased the hourly rate, which in turn increased various fees. A few fees were not previously listed, so they have been added to the master fee schedule. There were also legislative changes in AB 1304, which increased various Weights and Measures fees. And if you want to ask questions as I go through each department, that might be best so that we can get answers if any departments have answers for you.
Doesn't appear to be any questions right now.
Next is the Auditor Controller County Clerk. So under the fish and wildlife fees, the listed fees now include the state mandated with the $50 clerk handling fee. So they're not increasing anything, but it's out together. Community Development, their Building Safety Division has increased mostly by CPI, and there are a couple new fees. A fee study was completed, which resulted in the hourly rate increasing and minimum charges being established for a couple of the fees. Code Enforcement has increased their inspection fee by the CPI. And the Planning Division and Support Services has increased various fees by CPI, and a few of the fees encompass multiple departments, so those fees are increasing as well. Next is Public Services. They increased fees by CPI. Public Works, a fee study was completed for the hourly rate of the Surveyor Division. Other fees were increased by the CPI. Registrar of Voters and Elections has added a line for clarification to define the subcategory, so their fees are not increasing. Sheriff is increasing various civil fees per government code. And Water Resources, most fees are increasing by CPI, and a few of the Quagga Mussel program fees are decreasing to reflect the limits set in the program ordinance. And those are the changes.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Please, Supervisor Green.
Yeah, I apologize, I'm not familiar, but under Auditor Controller, Fish and Wildlife, it looks like the fees are mandated by the state, but under Fish and Wildlife, it's quite a jump on the EIR fee from $1,426 to 3 times that much, $41.76. Is that because we were not previously following the state guideline and we're finally catching up? Or I'm just trying to figure out. It looks like it's set by the state, but it jumped quite a bit. So did the state jump that particular fee quite a bit?
And I'm sorry, which one was that, the EIR?
The EIR, it's a proposed raise from $1426.25 to $41.76.25. And based on the other increases, that could be a transposition error.
I believe the EIR previously was $41.26, so it might have just been a transposition. But it just increased $50 to include the clerk handling fee.
So under the old fee, there might be a transposition error?
There may have been.
Okay, thank you.
I see no other questions. I do have a question. I apologize for not asking earlier, and I appreciate all the information that was submitted to me for my requests for further information on this. But what is the total number of hours a 100% full-time person should be working
So
for the year?
out of the 2,080 hours that we are paid, typically it's around 1,776 that are eligible working hours. So that takes out break times, holiday pay, vacation hours, anything like that.
So even though, and the reason is that in the documents that you submitted to me, like for example, I'm looking at the county surveyors and it's at .6, so you have the full salary scope and then you have the .6 for the total amount of their salary. And then instead of the .6 of the 2080 of 1,248, it's 920. I'm having difficulty understanding. No matter what, we're hiring somebody and paying a full salary for 2,080 hours. There's always supposed to be a lunch. There's always supposed to be breaks. There's always supposed to be holidays and weekends. But the salary is based on 2080. And when we don't use 2080, then that means that the hourly wage that we're asking folks to pay is higher than the actual wage divided by 2080, which I need better understanding of that.
No, I'll let you go for now.
Well, it includes the holiday pay, vacation, because those are benefits that have been approved for the county employees, so we need to get reimbursed somehow for those. Other than that, I believe Public Works does include overhead in their calculation, so that's not just paying for the individual who's doing the work, but everybody else who has any interaction, the accountants, the supervisory staff, anything like that.
If you don't mind, I'm going to call Mr. Carter behind you.
So the hourly rate that you charge to an individual or as your fee, you have to get down to the actual potential hours that are going to be worked in a year that can be billed, in essence. And each one of those billable hours, if you reach said number of hours, it needs to cover the entire salary with those vacation, holiday, and sick, and any potential overhead for pencils all the way down to your desk. That's how a rate is set for an hourly rate, charged to not necessarily just the public, but just to a customer, because those fees are front-facing to cover all of the indirect costs as well. So for the Public Works, the reason why it's all the way down to the 900 number is at the very beginning where it only said 0.6 of their salary, it's because right off the top, we're expecting 40% to be general fund. Only public-facing to cover 60% of their salary. So that's where you get down to only the 60% and then divided by the 920. That 920 comes from taking out, you have to pay for sick, vacation, salary, and then they actually have a time study to explain what their non-billable hours are. So they have a lot of work on maps or things like that at the front counter, which is not direct billable, but that is still time that has to be covered by fees because it is a front-facing department. And if you pull out where about, I think it's about 60% of the two surveyors' times are the front counter and those type of things that aren't billable, that's why the hourly billable hours are all the way down at 960 or 920.
Well, I appreciate the submission of greater detail.
And I'd be happy to talk to you more.
And I think I need to continue the conversation. I see our fees going up. I see our costs going up, and that's for everybody, and eventually it's not the wrong thing to do. The easy thing is to increase our wages, which eventually always comes back down on the folks that we're trying to engage and potentially costing and pricing out to be able to engage in some of the things that they want to do, which potentially leads them to doing things without ever approaching us in the first place. It's a complicated balance, and I obviously need to learn more, and I am going to move forward today, but it's definitely something I need to dive deeper into, because it feels awkward to say, here's your full salary, but we're going to make you pay a higher hourly wage because there's vacations and other things, versus dividing it by 20/80, which is the full salary. And from a layman perspective, which I'm absolutely coming from here, which would be the perspective the public would walk in and ask, if you get paid $100,000 and there's 1,000 hours, you know exactly what you're supposed to pay, but then there's all these little changes involved, and I'd like to better understand it so I can better explain it, because right now I don't understand it enough to be able to explain. But thank you again for further information. I'm going to be requesting a little bit more, because I am looking for some of the time studies just to see what exactly those look like, how those are engaged with the actual tasks that we're doing, because again, law requires that we have those. I know that I did request those. I didn't get those, but I did get further information than I have in past years. So appreciate the progress, and I will evolve in my understanding. Any further comments or questions? All right, let's open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on this item?
Oh, Christopher Allen with the Auditor Controller, County Clerk. Yes, you were right, Supervisor Green. Those numbers were transposed in the environmental impact reports. It should be the 4,100.
He ran down here, and he's not even breathing hard. Thank you very much. Anything further? All right, bringing it back to the board for action.
Offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go and move on to, I'm going to skip a few. We're going to start with item 7.6, report to the board regarding Lake County Behavioral Health Services revenue and expenditures and loan status. And if I'm correct, we are pulling this item and, no? Oh.
No, changed. Not this one.
Okay.
All right.
Please come on up.
Thank you.
And we have Director Jones and her team.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I believe, maybe I said that item, but really what I think I meant the item after for Heritage Oaks Hospital. Anyways, about a month ago, a little over a month ago, Behavioral Health Services requested a short-term loan of $3 million from the general fund, and also approval to move forward with a $1 million loan from the Department of Social Services realignment funds. As it stands, we have borrowed and nearly expended all of the $3 million, and we're completing an MOU with DSS to tap into the remaining $1 million. So here with me today, I have Amber Madero, who is our Fiscal Program Manager, as well as Deputy Director of Administration, Christine Andrus, to provide an update about the status of Medi-Cal reimbursement, which is the reason why we don't have money, because we are a business that runs on Medi-Cal dollars. And so I am going to put them on the spot to provide an update on some reimbursement status and where we're headed.
So according to CalMesa's billing overview dashboard, total billed successfully, which means claims have went through to the state, totals $4.5 million for mental health. Total with payer decision means the state's adjudicated the claims. We should be receiving money as $1.4 million. So as you can see, there's a discrepancy between those two numbers. Total that we've received of the $4.5 million is $1.3 million. So that is what's actually been received back from the state. We've been able to post the payments. That's for the mental health program.
And then Amber, were there other claims that are still stuck in the system that are even greater than that, which we haven't been able to push to billing yet because of errors on the EHR vendor side?
Yes, so the total service value of services provided, according to our electronic health record, is $9.91 million. Total charges is $8.3 million. Total charges that have no errors is $8.27 million. So a lot of that discrepancy between what we've received and what is valued by the state is related to the issues with their system, not reading the claims properly. There's around $11,000 of charges out of errors that we've built up that are being currently worked on by accounting staff to correct errors. First, the SUDS program. We have $5.94 million of total service value. Total charges is $5.93 million. Total charges with no errors is also $5.93 million. So that's it's a little bit easier, less complicated service errors to fix. Total billed to the state for SUDS is $3.9 million. Total with payer decision is $432.5 thousand, and we've received $412,000 of that. And that is for the period of July 1, 23 through 4/22/24.
So as you can see, still a significant delay in what's being held up and what's been reimbursed to us. We did receive a couple of large reimbursements, and that had given us some hope, like, okay, it's starting to flow, they're starting to get the issues fixed, and it's halted again. So I have drafted an email. We've been speaking with executive team at the Department of Healthcare Services, so their Director of Finance, Chief of Medicaid staff, who are responsible for this, who are happy to point out to us that we're in the same boat with all other counties. And so there's definitely some advocacy that's going to be coming forward again from our department, probably involving California Behavioral Health Directors Association, as well as potentially CSAC. I do not personally feel that I don't feel that they're taking this serious enough, especially for a smaller department that doesn't have huge reserves to draw on, and we're not a big county. So, $1 million to us is a big deal, but it's not a big deal when you have a multi-billion-dollar budget. So that's going to be up to us, myself, to do more advocating to make sure that these claims come through.
And just to add to that, this allows us to view the state as a whole, and it pretty closely mirrors what we're seeing as far as our data. So the total billed throughout the state of California is $206 million. Total with payer decision is only $70.7 million, and of that, only $35.5 million has been paid to the counties in California.
I believe that was the bulk of our presentation, so happy to address any questions to the best that we're able.
Are there any questions or comments? I do have a question for you. I know I helped to connect you with Jolie from CSAC.
Yeah.
And I know you were trying to watch the words you chose. Is it a belief that CSAC is not as helpful in the sense
No.
that if Riverside was having the same type of advocacy that they would move, or if LA had the same level of advocacy, or is it the state itself?
It's the state itself. I took my foot off the gas, so to speak, with pursuing advocacy efforts in light of the fact that we had a large payment posted. So I thought, okay, all right, I don't want to, go go ruffling feathers if it looks like the issue is resolving, but it doesn't appear that that didn't turn into a steady stream as I had hoped. So I don't. No, it's on behalf of the state, and unrelated to this, but related to payment in general, is the fact that we actually, for our substance use disorder side, which is not the deficit side, again, but could be potentially if we can't get some reimbursements flowing, we're still owed money from the state from 2021 for New Life claims. It's only in air quotes, $500,000, which again, it's easy for the state to put off because that's nothing to them, but it's a big deal to us. And so it isn't CSAC, it isn't CBHDA, it is with the state, and we are just simply not a priority.
Right. And I know that I asked you specifically about that contract because I knew it was a big dollar contract, just to see where we are with costs versus reimbursement, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and hoping to see that opening up. I see a pen go up. Vice Chair Crandall?
This is a member concern at RCRC as well. The other rural counties have this issue. I'm going there tomorrow. I'll make sure I touch base with some of the others to see if they'll, not if, they already are saying these things, so, yeah.
Yeah, we're not alone. There is a lot of discussions about this with counties. I don't know, it's hard to get a global sense of how other counties like balance their books and make ends meet. But I'm guessing that they may have similar struggles, not that it lessens our struggles here or makes it any less impactful, because it's a huge issue, and it's concerning that the state's timeline for reimbursing counties, and you're asking counties to do so much work, and you're putting all this pressure on counties through CalAIM and all these other initiatives, and the current administration has a lot to say about behavioral health, and we're happy for the support, but it really needs to be support, and it hasn't really felt like that, because I don't know how to run a business without getting paid timely. That's just not a thing that I know how to do. I don't know.
Just not the way it works.
I don't know how.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, just comment on the letter. You said you're going to be drafting a letter at this
Yes.
point?
Another one, we've already spoken with CBA, or, no, excuse me, Department of Healthcare Services financial executive team. And I do recognize and appreciate that you have to be a very squeaky wheel to get their attention. And so we're going to continue to be that squeaky wheel to the extent that, if we need to travel in person to go meet with somebody in person, if that makes more of an impact, we certainly will.
Excellent. And I'd recommend getting the chair involved with that, CAO. Simple phone calls, absolutely, that advocacy definitely helps. Showing up at someone's doorstep definitely brings a little more pressure to it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Just a quick question, just because I don't have a picture or an image to help me with this. Are we seeing the problem growing as far as the deficit that we're in the sense that we're owed more and more and more per month? Or are we seeing it somewhat shrinking and it just not shrinking fast enough to be able to cover the needs and bottom line of behavioral health?
What do you think,
I would
Amber?
say that it's shrinking, but not to the speed or level that I would feel comfortable.
Yeah, fast enough.
We did, since March, we've received just over 1 million in payments for Medi-Cal on the mental health side. Just a few days ago, we received $1 million check on the substance use disorder side, but the issue that we're running into them with is the issuance of an 835, which allows us to allocate where that payment needs to go. So we're getting this money with no ability to post it to the accounts that it needs to go to, with a response of, you'll receive the 835 in 4 to 6 weeks.
So basically, it ties up your money even further because it's essentially a backwards invoice where they're like, here's where you apply those payments to that you billed to. And without that, we can't do anything with that money. So I also believe, I know that the lift with CalAIM payment reform was extremely heavy for us. It was heavy on the state side, and so to me, this is all resultant of that. And just as much as we've been on a very steep learning curve trying to figure this out, albeit as painful as New Life was, that actually put us in a good position to deal with some of this because that was also very complex. The state are also human beings, and I recognize that, and they are also on a steep learning curve. So it just is unfortunate all the way around to I don't want to say the blind leading the blind, but that kind of is what it feels like sometimes.
It's been an upheaval for us and for the state, and as far as processing after payment reform.
I would say if it's decreasing, that's at least a positive direction.
It is.
So I gotta take the silver lining where the silver lining is. But absolutely, let's make sure that we keep advocating and keep pushing for that. I know I went to one of the Prop 1 sessions over at the conference I just went to, and the individuals at the table said, here's the list of all the things that have changed in behavioral health over the last 10 years. It would be nice if we could just get a 2, 3, 5-year period where there's no changes, because all of these changes eventually hit barriers because not every change is smooth. And we end up having to change the way we do our work and change the way that we receive the funding and access the funding, and it just adds more hurdles than it's the idea is to help, but it's also complicating things. So appreciate the update, and it sounds like it's going in the right direction, and happy to keep pushing any way that I can, and I'm sure all of us would be willing to help if that is needed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And of course, I want to just give a special shout out, to the CAO's office, Stephen Carter. They're exceptionally helpful, understanding. We have a great admin team, and we will be coming back in a month.
Thank you.
One last follow-up question, and tell me if I'm off base here. We do have a lobbying firm, correct, that we brought on board, and, that's what they're there for, to lobby on behalf of the county, and this is a big issue for us, so just putting it out there.
Yes.
Because they can be there, that's why we're utilizing them.
Yeah. There was consensus to ask our lobbyist group to look into the unpaid billables for mental health and for substance abuse.
Thank you,
Substance
Supervisor
use
Simon.
disorder.
We'll take whatever help we can get.
Thank you for that. I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Seeing nothing in Zoom and no one stepping up to the microphone, that will conclude. We did give consensus, and so we will go ahead and move on to the next item. 7.7, consideration of amendment number 1 to the agreement between the County of Lake and BHC Heritage Oaks Hospital Incorporated for acute inpatient psychiatric hospital services and professional services associated with acute inpatient psychiatric hospitalization in the amount of $175,000 for fiscal year 23-24, and authorize the board chair to sign. Director Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was actually the item that I wanted to pull, and I apologize for getting my numbers messed up there. So we will be bringing this item back at a later date. I just do want to give a heads up that it will be a slightly larger amount. And one thing we're seeing with our mobile crisis services that went live January 1st is that we are seeing an increase in our hospitalizations. We can talk more about that at a later date. It's an interesting consequence, if you will. But anyways, we'll be bringing this back.
All right, so we are going to pull this item for a later agenda, and I'm going to open up for public. Any comments on the pulling of the item? I see nothing in Zoom. Everyone's rushing to the microphone, and so we'll go ahead and move on. Item 7.8, consideration of amendment number 3 to the agreement between the County of Lake and the Smith Waters Group in the amount of $210,000 for patient rights advocacy services for fiscal year 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25. Director Jones.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Chair. This is part of our calculated costs to make it through to the end of the fiscal year. So when we previously bought a budget proposal that was embedded in the loan previously discussed, this was part of that understood cost of doing business. The reason that we're seeing an increase in these patients' rights advocacy services is because, well, for one, this is a multi-year contract. And so effective January 1st of 2023, a law went into place that required us to do hearings for people who are placed on a 5150, and we believe that their hold should be renewed after 72 hours, and we are required to conduct a hearing where they have representative, they have counsel and a patient's rights advocate present. And so due to their increased responsibilities of attending to those hearings, we have seen an increase in cost. Of course, whenever possible, we do not want to extend holds or stack holds, as it's called. That is not desired. But you have already been aware of the lack of acute bed placements, which impacts our ability to timely place people. So whenever we do that, just please know that it's to ensure patient safety. So that is the nature of the beast here with this contract. We had previously gone out to bid for these services. I don't believe that we need to go out to bid again. I don't believe that we will find a cheaper or better service. So that is, anything else that you two ladies would want to add? Okay, that's what I got for this one.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? And just real quick, this is not a reimbursable service. This is, I want to say, a required service that obviously has a great benefit to those that are looking to receive those services.
Yes, it's an unfunded mandate.
We had a long conversation about that this past week as well. All right, looking for public comment on this item. Anyone wish to speak on this item? I see no hands in Zoom and no one in the chamber. Bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve amendment number 3 to the agreement between the County of Lake and the Smith Waters Group in the amount of $210,000 for patient rights advocacy services for fiscal years 22-23, 23-24, 24-25, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Our next item, Health Services, consideration and discussion of contract with HS GovTech Solutions, Inc. for the license, configuration, support, and hosting of the Lake County Environmental Health Database Management Software for an amount not to exceed $400,093.21, and authorize chair to sign. We have Director Arton and Director Weatherby. You're doing the rounds?
I can't help myself, you know.
Thank you. We needed that.
I'm here for you. Yes.
Would you like to speak in the microphone, please?
Thank you for having us. Board, we are bringing forward to you a new software for environmental health. Our current software is, to use the word aging would be underselling it. It was originally designed for Windows 2000, for those who remember it. The software has become obsolete in a way that we don't have anybody who actually knows the programming language to be able to fix it when it breaks. It is no longer carried by their original developer, and they have moved on to a new software, which we couldn't use. So we have gone out to RFP. We selected a software. We are looking at HS GovTech, otherwise known as Health Space, colloquially. This software is used by up to 10 counties in the state and growing. A lot more counties are slowly moving to this software. This is a critical need for my division to be able to operate. We have too many delays in our permitting process, too many delays in standard, easy things like inspections and so forth, because our software is broken. So we are bringing this software solution to you, and I hope that you agree with me. It's so desperately needed. Please, please, please let me have software that works. Yes. Yes. We did have a question earlier, was whether or not we went through the tech committee. We did not. That was the simple answer. However, we have done so now. And it was determined that our software will not impact any other county department or the county's IT department as well.
Perfect.
Standalone.
Thank you very much for that response as well. Any comments or questions regarding this item? Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just a quick question. It appears to be a 5-year contract, and when other departments bring contracts, sometimes they label them by fiscal year. So is this 5-year out the gate, or have you broken this down between fiscal years?
There are 2 fees that are associated with this. So we have our initial setup fee, which is going to be $140,000. We have arranged the contract at a 50% payout on the initial fees, with the remaining 50 being tied to milestones for implementation. And then the annual fees are included in that $400,000 over the next 5 years. It starts at $42,000 and then goes up 6% each year over the course of the 5-year contract. And that's where we bring the total fee over 5 years to $400,000.
Any other questions? Appreciate you bringing this to us. No matter if we say yes or no, we're still ahead of the FAA, who's
You wanna say yes.
1970s. But I think technology has an absolute place for some of the things that we just discussed earlier, which is, does it make our life may be more efficient in the work that we do, or maybe we can reduce some of the fees that we're asking folks to pay based on the fact that we can get it done so much faster with upgraded technology. So I think it's always good to upgrade, and I saw in there is training as well. I think that's probably one of the most important aspects of any new software. And so I look forward to hearing how that goes and how implementation works.
Training specifically was added into this contract for all user groups, not just inspectors, so that at every level of interaction with this software, even our admin people will have training on how to do their work more efficiently. My front staff people, it was built into that contract, so that $400,000 also covers. It will not be a separate charge.
Yeah, no, it's good to know the software rather than to learn as you fly it.
Yeah, we've learned the hard way that that doesn't work.
Anything further? And let's open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Please come on up to the mic or raise your hand. And seeing none in either chamber, let's bring it back to the board for action.
I move that we approve the contract with HS GovTech Solutions, Inc., license, configuration, support, and hosting of the Lake County Environmental Health Database Management Software for an amount not to exceed $400,093.21, and authorize the chair to sign.
We have a motion and a second and a smile. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Welcome to 2024.
Yay. And you also get a free dance on my way out. Thank you so much. Go Middletown. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Moving on to item 710, consideration of resolution amending resolution number 2023-117, establishing position allocations for fiscal year 23-24, budget unit number 2111, public defender. And Mr. Carter, I'm going to pass it on to you.
All right, thank you, board. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So the Public Defender's Office is requesting the position allocation chart to be amended to add 5 new public defender attorneys, and that can be in the range of 1, 2, 3, or senior, which has a wide range of financial implications, and also adding 1 public defender investigator 1, 2 classification, as well as an additional legal administrative assistant or senior classification. Oh, it's up there, cool. So as you can see on the screen, from the position title, Public Defender 1 is a grade D38, and the step 1 is 3474 up to step 5, which is 4223. I don't want to go too deep into the numbers, but I will state that with the approved budget for 23-24, these positions were actually already budgeted for. It just wasn't in the position allocation yet. We basically presented a hybrid budget for 23-24 that was partial staff, partial contract, and this fits within the acceptable range of, even if all of them were hired at step 5, we have the financial ability to sustain these staff members. Other than that, I will say that for 23-24, since I know any new positions are all money related on whether we can increase or not, in the public defender budget unit, the overall budget is just over $3.5 million. We've only spent $1.6 million. So there's actually almost $1.9 million still available. That's where there is plenty of budget available for this, and that means we haven't quite gotten to the staffing that we planned for during the hybrid. But this is supposed to correct this through 24-25.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? All right. Let's open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Please either come up to the mic or raise your hand in Zoom. bring it back to the board. And just real quick question, one I just thought of. I know I've been seeing the positions being flown. I take it this is the precursor to actually going through the interview processes and eventually providing a proposal to those that have been chosen through the process.
Correct. So there was already been 3 misdemeanor attorneys, position allocations that have been offered. This would expand the ability to offer for felony, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Perfect.
I'll offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall?
Yes.
Supervisor Green?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you very much. Next, we have 711, and I believe it will be Mr. Carter and Ms. Samick on this one. Consideration of the Classification, Compensation, Recruitment, and Retention Committee 2324 Reclassification Cycle Findings and Recommendations.
7:10. You said 7:11.
We are on 711. Did a change on my...
No, mine says 711 is
Oh,
CCRR.
and mine doesn't. Mine says 7:10.
Either way, we're in the ballpark.
Okay.
Ms. Samick?
Good afternoon, Pam Samick, HR Director. So today we are discussing the Classification and Compensation Recruitment and Retention Committee recommendations for the 23-24 reclassification request. I don't know if I should stop or jump in, or there. Okay, go. All right. The assessor recorder submitted a request and justification that the committee did not agree with because it is a salary and not a reclassification request. I won't go into his complete justification because you guys have read that, plus a 2.5% advanced appraiser ad pay, which the committee did not agree with. So I don't know if you want to stop after each department or go through all.
I don't see any pens up, and no pens means move on.
Okay. Auditor Controller made a request to reclassify a position from a property tax coordinator to a property tax manager. The committee recommends that we approve this request because it is a reclassification request, and this is going from an hourly position to a management position.
And just to clarify, that means pulling a, are we pulling the classification or creating a new one and not pulling?
Pulling the classification because that old classification will no longer exist. It will be replaced by this manager role.
Okay, so we are pulling a classification out of one of the MOUs that we have a contract with.
Correct.
Just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
How many managers then are in that department now?
I would have to run a report. I don't know offhand, to be honest. Do you know offhand?
I do.
Okay.
So that would make the 4th position, but it'll be the 3rd filled. So there's the elected, and then 2 chiefs, and then this property manager, property tax manager, sorry.
And an assistant that's not filled.
Correct.
Well, it's in there. Whoops.
So theoretically, there's 5 available.
Behavioral Health made a recommendation to do all of their clinical RNs and counselors. This was not a reclassification, but a salary request, so the committee voted to deny this request because it's not reclassification, it's just a request for an increase of salary to all these positions.
Before you go any further, since we were requested, I'd like to go back one because we were asked to add the financial implications of these changes, and I believe that should be publicly stated, even though it's in the memo. So for the property tax coordinator, the difference in salary is $18,844.80 a year, and then you do the PERS and FICA, so it would be a total of $24,677 difference year over year. So just want to make the public and your board aware.
Thank you.
Lars Ewan requested a reclassification from landfill manager, and the committee recommended approving this. Total cost for salaries, $11,835.20. Total cost to the budget is $15,498.19. The Register of Voters asked to reclassify. Sure.
I just want to point out that in the second text box where the increase to the budget is shown, the title continues to be listed as landfill manager, but the actual proposed
solid
class
waste.
title is integrated solid waste. So is that correct title?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Register of Voters asked to get a salary increase to 3 positions. The committee did not recommend this request because it was a straight salary request, not a reclassification request. Special districts requested to reclassify their CMOM coordinators. The committee, I did that here too. The committee recommended to approve this recommendation there, and the cost to the budget for a CMOM coordinator 1 would be $4,129.20. Total cost to the budget, $5,407.18. For the CMOM coordinator 2, it would be a difference of $2,246.40. Total cost to the budget would be $2,941.66. The committee did recommend this request. The treasurer tax collector made a recommendation to reclass 5 positions. We recommended the reclass of the accountant 1, 2 to auditor tax. The total cost of that is $4,659.20. Total cost of the budget is $18,303.66. They asked to reclassify their accountant 2 to an accountant 2 auditor tax. Total difference is $5,058.40. Total cost to the budget for that is $6,754.93. They also asked to reclassify their collection supervisor to an accountant 1, 2 senior. The cost for this is $3,140.80. Total cost to the budget is $4,112.88. Total cost for their allocated positions to the budget for these 3 positions, or these 3, positions would be $29,171.47. The committee recommended these because these are reclasses, and it more closely mirrors what they're doing. The auditors, or the treasurer tax, also requested 2 other salary increases, which the committee recommended for non-approval because they were straight salary increases only. And that is the bulk of the request.
Anything further, Mr. Carter? No? Any questions on this item? So obviously, last time we had a conversation, it was requested to bring this back in open session. My perspective has not changed, so I will be abstaining from the vote today. I think this needs to still be closed session. I also want to speak to, and I apologize for picking on this one, but it's the only one that I feel that I can speak to, as it's management to management. When you look at the landfill manager going to solid waste, it says here, currently the landfill manager supervises 6 permanent heavy equipment operators, 2 permanent weightmasters, and approximately 5 extra help staff throughout the year. This supervision would remain the same with the new position. I added that little part, with the proposed increase to include supervision of a staff services specialist who currently reports directly to the Public Services Director. And the cost to the budget is $15,000 for an additional one supervision. And I just, I don't know if there was a class and comp that was done to look at other counties, what are the costs, or if it was just a proposal and it was a yes or no. I see these types of things within the document, and I feel like there's a loophole for changing a position title versus looking at changing the salary, which allows for these to come back and say, it's not a salary change, it's a brand-new position. And I struggle with this process versus, again, the closed session, and I'll leave it at that.
There were additional changes to the job description, which I would be happy to send back to you, so it wasn't just supervising the staff analyst. It was reporting in a myriad of activities that they would be taking on in addition. That's in the job description edits, that's not in his ask, that we went over during the Class and Comp Committee.
Okay. And I appreciate that, but it's still just something that I needed to express on some of the things that are on here that I struggle with. And if there's no further, Vice Chair Crandall?
Yes, I see here, and I see that there was a denial for the behavioral health requests due to the request, but solely a request for salary increases. Are all these positions filled as of now? I didn't see if it said that.
No, there are some vacancies within those roles, but the Class and Comp Committee has traditionally, and if you look at the policy, it's not meant just to adjust salaries. We have other mechanisms for that. And because this was a straight ask for salary and not a reclass, we said no.
I see, okay. Reclass, not increase, okay, got it. I find those positions important, but I get the justification. I understand that I'm just making sure that I emphasize that. But it's important for behavioral health because we just had a testimony today of somebody who benefited from the BUILD program who was in a situation. So I know that has no weight here, but I just want to make sure that I emphasize that. But I understand.
Sure.
Thank
And that is consistent with past practices. We just said no to social services, kind of for a similar reason, that it was a straight salary ask and not a reclassification request.
No, I get it. It has no bearing here in this situation. It would be further down the line. So, okay, thanks.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, I don't need a lengthy thing because I know this is not the agenda item, but for the denials in here, including those for the registrar that were deemed more of a compensation increase, but as stated in the request by the registrar, it made an argument. It wasn't a winning argument, but that in fact they were seeking a change in classification based on the work duties described by the registrar. So that got bumped down to this larger class and comp 2.0 or benching situation. So, and again, and that wasn't the only one. There were several other requests in here that also got shot down as straight up salary increases. So again, I just want to signal I did kind of struggle during this meeting as far as understanding the process. I dare say that more than one department head struggled with this process, and I don't know if that is something with our policy or the form that they're directed. I know they're under the gun to get this stuff done before budget. That said, if it got bumped down to this larger classification effort, it kind of, to me, kind of sucked some of the air and definitely sucked some of the proposed changes out of this effort. So, and I don't know really what I'm saying, but, do we have a timeline for whatever this latest benching thing is going to be, and when are we going to hear about when department
I think we
heads
should discuss that offline, that particular topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if we look at the register of voters, it was a title change, no change in the actual duties. She just didn't agree with how they've been classified since the original comp and class study, but had an opportunity after that next cycle to review that. So you can't just change the title and expect an increase. So again, that's why the committee as a whole voted no, because it was a title change with no changes to the job description.
Okay, and when are we going to see those benches in this later process?
I'd really like to talk about that offline.
Thank you.
Mr. Sullivan, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for considering our office's request before you today to approve providing equal pay to the accountants in our office. I do wish to provide additional information about the assistant treasurer tax collector position that was not included in the reclassification recommendation. The treasurer tax collector's office has the unique distinction of having shrunk in size over the last 20 years. The only comparable department I'm aware of that has had positions cut rather than added during that time. In the meantime, there's been a massive expansion of duties with limited resources. We've taken on the cannabis cultivation tax, cannabis business tax, TOT enforcement. We have all court-ordered debt, deferred comp, full-scale investment program, and tax auctions on a scale beyond what any other small county has done, as far as I'm aware. There are not many treasurer tax collector offices in the state that actually run all these programs, but we do here. Our office has suffered from constant turnover, especially in the last several years. Our pay scales were lower than comparable positions in other county departments without real opportunity for career growth. Other county departments with comparable functions were specially adjusted while this office was left behind. The damage done over time by this situation cannot be overstated, as a significant number of staff left our department for better opportunities in other county departments. The Board of Supervisors took significant steps to solve this problem last year when it increased the compensation of accounting technicians in our office to provide equal pay. The recommendation before you today to provide equal pay to the accountants in our office is a critical next step. So we really thank you for considering that. The assistant treasurer tax collector position has had to learn and now help manage all of the new programs referenced above. We added those new duties to the proposed job description, which I understand has been rejected by the committee. I'm not really clear where that leaves us going forward. This really doesn't make sense to me. I feel that the same logic that was applied to the other changes made to peer departments shares that same basis and for the steps your board has already taken. And I just want to point out sort of where things have left now. The assistant treasurer tax collector salary scale has now fallen behind the number 3 position in the auditor's office after all these adjustments have been made. The salary scale for this position now overlaps number 4, number 5, and potentially a number 6 position in that office, especially considering the proposal today. So I don't begrudge anyone those increases. I applaud all efforts to move staff salaries forward. And I get we can't control external factors like our pay compared to other agencies, but I think we can control the internal imbalances, and that's what I'd really like consideration on. So I'm hoping that you please do not fix the problem for the remaining part of the staff without addressing the assistant treasurer tax collector. I just feel like the same logic applies to the duties she's performing, especially now after all the new programs we've had to take on. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Supervisor Pyska?
So is it the auditor's department that is closely aligned traditionally with the salaries of the treasurer tax collector?
That's what he's referring to, yes.
Okay, because there was a mention of similar departments and positions.
That's why the position is basically the auditor treasurer type
Auditor tax.
on the request.
Okay. But is the assistant tax collector that far below the comparable auditor positions?
Yes, it is. Pretty sure.
Yes?
Yes. But this particular.
No, I know that's not
Yeah.
the conversation we're
Yeah.
having today.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're going to need to have that conversation at some point, and it would be helpful when we get to that point to see some side-by-side comparisons for what should be comparable and equitable.
And that's what comes with
The next Next steps. Okay.
Any further comments, questions?
I know it was mentioned, a comparison with behavioral health and social services. I see them as different in a way, and the reason I say that is because one is upstream, one is meeting them like right where they're at their point that they need assistance. But I understand again that this is about the position allocation, so I'm just emphasizing that and making sure I specify why I brought this up.
Behavioral health and public health have a lot of very similar positions.
Oh, yeah.
So I have two last questions, just to clear things up. On the last option in Accounting 1, reclass to Accounting 1 Auditor/Tax, is that what it's currently called, is Accounting 1 Auditor Tax, or is it just Auditor right now and we're adding tax?
We're adding auditor tax so that it's the same classification that can be used in either department without adding another position in a series.
But the Accounting 1 Auditor already exists.
Correct.
We're adding tax, but it's not changing the salary of the Accounting 1 Auditor.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure on that. And then the last one, and I appreciate the comments made by Vice Chair Crandall about behavioral health. Mental health RN, in my opinion, based on the vacancy list that you send me from time to time, is not a position that exists. When I type that up, I don't see it. I see an LVN. I see clinician, but I don't see RN itself. And so if that's not a salary change and it's a creation of a new,
It's not. I think it's just this chart is the way they requested it. We do have an RN in mental health. I would have to look up the exact title, but it is this pay code.
And it might not be something that's on the position allocation chart. That doesn't mean the position doesn't exist within our system.
yeah, I know that in the vacancy list, it shows all the positions that have been allocated, whether they're filled or open. So I get to see all of the allocations that are there. But what you're saying is it might just be a job description that's somewhere in the existence.
Used to be there.
It just hasn't been allocated as that position. Okay.
I want to say, I think it's called a community health nurse. I'll look it up for you. It's just when they put in their request, I listed it how they put it in.
Yeah,
So I'll look up the title for you.
I would definitely appreciate that so I can link it up together. If there's nothing further, let's open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Raise your hand in Zoom, coming up to the mic here in the chamber. Seeing none, let's bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, do I need to make an amendment too? Did we make a name change on here? Was there, no?
About the solid waste.
Yeah, the solid waste.
I think it's okay on the
The
resolution.
resolution
Okay.
should be fine.
Actually, there is no
There
resolution.
is no resolution, so
Recommended action?
I move to approve the CCRR class and comp, the CCRR recommendations and authorize the human resource to initiate the meet and confer process with the applicable employees associations as needed. Right?
And it would be as amended.
I think.
As amended.
Yes.
Yeah, since it's the only thing we have.
Okay.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any oppose? Any abstain? I abstain. Real quick, this will come back as a resolution for the ones that don't need to go through meet and greet.
Meet and greet.
Meet and confer.
Meet and greet.
Go ahead.
Yes, it will, once we have the meet and confer process done, it will come back to you.
At the very least, the position title changes will have to take effect on the position allocation chart.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board.
And let's go with 7.3, consideration of draft ordinance repealing urgency ordinance 3113, amending ordinance 3110, prohibiting water hauling to unpermitted cannabis cultivation sites. Is this the one that we are pulling for further conversation at a later date?
Yes, Chair, there was a clerical error by yours truly, and this is mislabeled. So just for clarity, I'd like to bring this back to a later agenda.
All right. Any comments on continuing this item? Open it up for public comment. Any comments on continuing this? Seeing none in Zoom, seeing none in the chamber, we'll move on to item 7.4, consideration of rescission of urgency ordinance 3106 requiring land use applicants to provide enhanced water analysis during a declared drought emergency. Supervisor Green.
Yeah, as your board is aware, on April 2nd, we terminated the local drought emergency declaration, and one of the side effects of that was to sunset 2 urgency ordinances that were passed subsequent to the passage of the emergency declaration. Although the sunset clause in Ordinance 3106 is, I'm told anyway, informed by County Council, self-executing, when it comes to how we track our ordinances in Granicus and Muni Code, it would not automatically display within those systems that the ordinance was no longer in effect. So according to County Council, what we can do, as in the recommended action, is just formalize the rescission of urgency ordinance 3106 by a motion, and that is the recommended action.
All right. Any comments or questions on this? Seems easy enough. Moving on to public comment. Anyone have a comment? Please come on up.
Good afternoon. My name is Margot Kambara. I am not against cannabis cultivation. I am for sustainability and resilience. The emergency nature of the drought no longer exists, but the action prompted by Ordinance 3106 warrants continuation as policy, specifically requiring hydrology reports as part of commercial cannabis cultivation permit application reflects Vision 2028 value, preserving the well-being of residents. Water is essential for life. Relying on a comprehensive groundwater management plan that accounts for drought management and the interest in hauling water for commercial agriculture can help safeguard groundwater. Rescinding Ordinance 3106 without making hydrology reports a routine part of the county's groundwater management exposes a gap and a vulnerability. The long-term impact of water demand on Lake County aquifers by commercial cannabis cultivation is not known. Assuming that well recharge and aquifer recharge will continue indefinitely while under greater water demand is not supported by data. Hydrology reports can be a tool to help the county protect residents from catastrophic failure of wells and aquifers. These reports can help the county take proactive action. Retaining the requirement for these reports reinforces the county's commitment to the well-being of residents. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Just want to let you know, while I appreciate the comments that you made, our discontinuing of the drought emergency, these ordinances were tied directly to that emergency, and so already they have been discontinued, these ordinances. This is more of a formality of being able to take it off. I know there has been conversation that hydrology reports can still be pursued by the department because it's within their discretion to make those requests. I can't speak directly to the drought management plan, whether or not that will continue, but I will speak directly and say, I don't think people put the effort in it that I had hoped that they would, as they basically said how to be good stewards of water on an everyday basis, not how they would look at their project on an actual drought basis. I never saw anyone saying I'm going to reduce from 10 acres to 8 acres or anything like that. It was always about just good watering practices. So I don't know that we were receiving what I was hoping to receive from those plans. But I just wanted to explain that to you, and I think that we should pay attention whether or not hydrology reports are continued or not, because that could lead to further actions. I know that one of the reasons I helped bring the emergency ordinance in the first place was all we were seeing were well reports, and some of them were like 1972. And to me, that was just not enough to understand the current status of the water that was going to be used for a project. But again, appreciate your comment, and thank you for being here.
You have someone on.
Oh, we have Director Turner, who probably wants to correct some of the things I may have said.
No, I completely agree with you. Thank you. I just wanted to sort of echo your comments to Ms. Kambara. We do take water use very seriously, and so the rescission of that ordinance requiring hydrology studies for every single discretionary permit, I think is going to improve now that it's going to be rescinded, because we still intend to use our authority that's given to us through the Chapter 21, Section 57.2G, that authorizes CDD to require all to require all studies that we deem necessary. And so moving forward, this department does intend to continue the hydrology report requirement for all discretionary permit applications that are not going to propose a municipal water source. That would include all cannabis projects.
Thank you, Director Turner.
Thank you.
Supervisor Green?
Thank you for that clarification, Director Turner. That was news to me. This is the rescission of an urgency ordinance, and I understand why it happened. It was a serious drought in 2021. Urgency ordinances, by definition, they require a 4/5 vote. They don't necessarily have the same bandwidth of examination as to all the potential uses and nuances of hydrology reports and land use applications. And what I heard, it sounds like it's going to be pretty consistent up there anyway. And because it was an urgency ordinance, both of them, they did have the self-executing rescission clause in there when the state of emergency passed. But I want to echo Chair Sabatier's comments. It is an important discussion to have, and now that this is going to go off the books, we're right in the middle of a Lake County 2050 general plan update. We're doing area plan updates. Clearly, there may be things we need to continue to talk about. We just don't want to use an urgency ordinance as the basis to have a full employment opportunity for hydrologists. We want to put the proper bang for the buck, and if there is a project that would benefit from that analysis, then the CDD will require that. But there may be other lesser permits, zoning clearances, what have you, non-cultivation projects where hydrology reports should not be required in all instances as this urgency ordinance requires. So I think this is actually an opportunity to, again, move past the state of drought emergency and begin these longer-term discussions where we will adopt rational, long-term water management policies, both in times of plenty, as in this year, and in times of our future droughts. So that was the only purpose of this, is to just commemorate the passing of that urgency ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Guintavano, just to check in, since it requires 4/5 vote to approve, does it require 4/5 vote to rescind? I don't think I should be worried about that, but I just thought I'd ask.
I don't see the requirement for the 4/5 vote for the rescission of the ordinance, although you are correct that 4/5 vote is usually, it is required for the passage of the urgency ordinance.
Maybe next time I do an urgency ordinance, I'll write in that it requires a 4/5 to rescind, because that just makes sense. I think I still had public, so please come on up. I was going to reopen it anyways, but I was trying to remember where I was.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Lasik. I'm a resident of Lake County. My well report goes back to 1960. And I understand that this is an emergency thing, and I appreciate all that. I do want to emphasize the importance of hydrology plans, especially with things like cannabis. And as we're going to be talking, I guess, at a later date about the water truck conversation. Currently, the hydrology plans that we've gone through for the projects in our valley do state, for example, the amount of water they intend to draw. And while there's a lot of the fluff about how I'm going to be a good water steward and stuff like that, what's critical to us is how much water are they going to draw? And I think that is important data if you're going to be looking at a long-term plan for the county to know where you're drawing water, how much. Those data points are critical if you're going to put together a solid plan. So I would encourage it for no other reason that the permits for major and minor use cannabis operations, that be retained, that kind of information. And especially if you're now considering, letting them use water trucks, because the current language that we see in the reports or in the applications are, our wells are sufficient, we don't need to use water trucks, we are going to pump this much, our wells don't go down, blah, blah, blah. Yet, if you're asking for a water truck, that means you ran out of water. So what's going on? So I think it's important for the county to keep that, to keep an eye on that, because we do need to know where our water's coming from. A one-size-fits-all isn't going to apply all the way around the lake. And by definition, if you're running out of water and you need a truck, that means even though, a couple of months ago we said, hey, we have plenty of water, somebody's well went dry. So anyways, if you have any questions for me, that's what I wanted to present.
I appreciate the comment, and I don't think we have any questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will go ahead and close public comment. Oh, John, sorry. I will not close public comment.
Joan Moss. I want to say that on Wildcat Road during the drought, there were water shortages at both ends of Wildcat Road. And it doesn't concern just cannabis. It concerns vineyards and grape growing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, now I will close public comment and bring it back to the board for action.
Just last quick comment, totally technical. If Ordinance 36 had not contained a sunset clause that became effective upon the rescission of the emergency declaration, potentially a 4/5 vote to rescind could be necessary. But my understanding is that it was self-executing. So if I were to guess, a simple motion to rescind would require a majority vote. And to the concerns also stated by the audience, yeah, I get it for land use permits. We definitely want to take a look at that. But there's a whole big swath of agriculture, as Ms. Moss pointed out, that is not subject to discretionary land use permitting. And those water uses also deserve additional study as we develop these long-range plans. So I know your comments have traditionally been focused on cannabis projects, but my personal interest as we develop a water resiliency strategy is to address all forms of water use for all types of agriculture. And we'll see how that goes as we get farther along that path.
Looking for action.
Move to rescind urgency ordinance 3106.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. More than 4/5.
Well, it says in Rule 8, motion to rescind, any action or motion shall require 4/5 vote unless notice has been given. Since we've had notice given, then it doesn't require it. But if we would have decided to rescind right now, it takes 4/5. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Oh, so if the rescission was on a similar urgency basis.
Right, this instant. But because there was notice given for this meeting, it doesn't require.
Where'd you pull that out of?
It's on the...
On the ordinance itself.
No, it's on the Board of Supervisors, Lake County Rules of Procedures, General Protocol.
Oh, my goodness. Cool.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All right, moving on to item 7.5, and I do want to make a statement that it is 2:50. Our closed session is supposed to start at 3. Does our process start at 3, or is there, let me ask the CAO, your suggestion, should we go into closed session right now and continue our open session later, or can we finish this item at the very least and see what time we finish this item?
Let's do that.
Okay, let's
The
take
latter.
up this item. All right, consideration of a resolution amending Scotts Valley Community Advisory Council boundary map. Supervisor Green.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully this won't take too long. Scotts Valley Community Advisory Council, when we seated some new members last year, we were taking a look at the original boundary as it was adopted, and technically we appointed some people who probably shouldn't have been based on the boundary that then established, which didn't include big portions of Eichhoff Road, Hendricks Road, and a lot of the collector roads that serve Scotts Valley. Pardon me. So Councilmember Cornelia Sieber Davis really led a very diligent effort to kind of rethink what the Scotts Valley area is. And the basic metric was, give me the arterials and the collectors that, basically traverse what is considered the Scotts Valley area. And we went back and forth, and I really want to thank Cornelia for her hard work. I want to thank Lon Sharp for being very patient through multiple iterations of this process. In the exhibits attached to this item, you'll see the proposed resolution. You'll see the new exhibit, A_V2, which really gets granular. One of the problems we had with the original map in the original resolution 2017-27 is we ended up kind of calling it the Sharpie map. It really didn't allow you to get parcel-specific analysis of who was in and out of there. So this new map attached to the draft resolution will give us parcel-specific. We can actually look up, and additionally, you'll see a screen grab. Mr. Sharp thankfully has put up on our current GIS application, which shows our municipal advisory councils, both the existing boundary and the larger proposed boundary. So I think there's a good enough visual references in here for your board to see what the existing boundary is, what the proposed boundary is. At the northern end, there does continue to be a little bit of an overlap with the Western Region Town Hall boundary, but that was there before. And although we talked back and forth, we really, I really asked the council to expand, yes, but don't look to remove any areas that were previously included. So again, this was approved by the council and recommended for approval by your board, and answer any questions you might have about that process.
Supervisor Pyska?
Why is that one area in the middle kind of not highlighted?
The checkerboard?
Yeah, it looks a little gerrymandery, but just wondering.
It is kind of general. I mean, I've considered filling it in, and actually if you look at Western Region Town Hall, it goes all the way up into Forest Service land. Most of those properties, including the checkerboard, is BLM, so we don't really expect a lot of applicants from those territories and don't see any real disadvantage to that artifact being in there. It's not an occupied parcel, it's BLM land, and it seems unlikely. Similarly, a little bit south of there, it gets a little more into the Benmore Valley area. They're not really identified with the Scotts Valley Area Council. So it's kind of a mix of it was just kind of a weird process. So although I was tempted to fill it in, I think everyone was really tired of looking at this map. And I don't want to speak for Mr. Sharp, but this was our best effort. But if open to amendment, if that, we can certainly plug that back in. I thought about it.
Any other?
Yeah, I looked at it and I noticed that the middle is what already is. That brown middle area is already, so it's already been there. It flares out a little bit further, but I think it works with the parcels that are included on the brown part of it, I guess you will. It just expands it out a little bit, but that's only because they're connected to those properties, so I'm not worried about it impeding on the district. At first I was like, wait, what's going on here? It's going further into Worth, but it just attaches to the actual drawn out first map, so it's not really anything.
And to me, it's more inclusive. I mean, technically, somebody in that overlap could serve on both regional councils, and I don't see any disadvantage to that. The more the merrier. I don't know if the northern Scotts Valley area residents identify more closely with Upper Lake than they do with Lakeport. So it just seemed to expand into what is considered Scotts Valley, whether you consider it from a geographic standpoint, from the occupied territories that have street access, or even a watershed where the BLM lands are included in there. So again, kudos to the hard work of the council and their patience with me as we went back and forth on this.
Anything further? All right. I will say it is, from my perspective, a little awkward to see overlap, but that's between you guys, not me. It's just...
It was already there.
No, I know.
Yeah, and so the parcels are already there, so including the rest of the parcel doesn't hurt because the person could still be on it.
Yeah, I recognize where the original was and where the proposed is. I just wanted to state that it's a little awkward on my position or my perspective to see that, but that is my comment. Let's open it up for public comment on this item. And seeing none, we'll bring it back. There is something real quick I do want to mention, and maybe it's something you could bring back at a little later time, but when I reviewed the bylaws, it says District 4 and District 5 supervisor, which I thought was really awkward because it's nowhere near, well, it's not far away, but it's nowhere inside District 5. It's actually inside District 3. But when you take a look at, again, I don't remember which one, the 2017, 27.
I've seen that too.
And I'm opening it up right now. And I can't do a search, but in there it says District 4, oh, right here, in number 5, under the now therefore of the original resolution in 2017, in there it says develop attainable solutions and advise the District 4 and District 5 supervisors. So not sure if you want to get rid of the District 5 or if you want to add District 3 since there's overlap, but it doesn't make sense to have District 5 right there.
Yeah, if I can, I don't have it in front of me. This is the original resolution establishing the council. I do believe the bylaws have been amended since then. I don't know if they address that particular issue, but I will check.
Gotcha.
And if I find anything, but I'll take a check at the most recent bylaws and see if that's still in there. That can certainly be amended.
Okay, then looking for action.
I offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Simon?
Yes.
Supervisor Crandall?
Aye.
Supervisor Green?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye. Thank you very much. And with that, we are going to go into closed session. We have a 8.1, 3 p.m. public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1. 8.2, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1. 8.3, public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1. We will continue after closed session with the remaining 2 items that are on our open session, but for now we are going into closed. Thank you.